Express are Australia's leading mail order gardening service, offering a wide range of quality garden products. Each week on the Garden Gurus Live, the team at Garden Express will share a weekly offer. So make sure after today's show you jump online and visit their website.
Good morning. We're back on Garden Gurus Live this morning, and I'm Joanne. It's great to be joining you after all the Garden Gurus Live show this Friday morning. It's a beautiful morning here in Perth. I hope you're having a great weather also. We've got a very exciting show lined up for you today, and of course on today's show, well, have you checked out your lawn lately? It's spring, and I dare say your lawn's going to be needing a bit of a spring clean like the rest of the house. Later I'll be joining our good friends at Garden Express for a special deal on Princess Lilies. You know, with names just as stunning as the flora itself, you'll want to grow these in a hurry for a perfect bouquet gift. And lots of other good reasons too. I'll also share a sneak peek of the 4th episode of the Garden Gurus Spring 2022, which is exciting. And get your questions in, and I'll try and answer as many of them as I can. Don't forget to put your state and city in the question. It helps me a lot to be able to direct that answer just for you. And please make sure you hit the like button. It's great for us to be sharing us around. Okay, so let's get straight into some questions and do as many as we can in this segment. Michael's from Sydney, and he's asked, is it too late now to plant seeds of snow peas? Well, you know, Michael, it really depends whether you're on the coast or whether you're up in the hinterland. So if you're on the coast, you're probably going to look at between March and July, and it may well be too late, because if the seeds and the pods are still developing when the really hot weather comes on, they may not develop for you. So yeah, if you're down on the coast, it may. But if you're up in the hinterlands, you can probably plant between September and late January and still produce the pods and seeds. So yes, you can still do them if you're up in the hinterlands. Deanne from Mandurah, Mandurah's in WA, it's on the coast. She'd like to know, could you tell me the best time to repot my zygo cactus, and also what potting mix and fertilizer should I use, please? Yes, it needs a repot for sure. It's in a very small pot, and you've got quite a few leaves in there, which is great. It's quite a full plant already. I would be planting them after flowering, so now would be okay, because of course these little guys go into dormancy in winter time, and so by the time the flowers finish, and they push flowers out right through that time, when they start finishing as the weather changes and it starts getting warmer, you'll notice that the flowers will wilt, and as they wilt, and you can get sometimes 2 or 3 flowers on the one stem, so wait till they're all the buds have opened, and once they have, you can pinch that segment off. So as much as you can do the whole plant at the end of the season, I tend to go in each week, and when I'm checking them out over a cup of tea, I'll pinch out the ends of those that have finished. It makes your plant a lot fuller, etc. So that's when you do that. So repotting would be now too, and you either go out and buy yourself a specialist cacti succulent potting mix, something that's quite sharp and allows the water to go through it really easily, but will also hold the moisture, because that's important. Although the roots hate to be in water, they want to have a good wet soil to be in. If you can't get out to use that to get a succulent and cacti potting mix, use a premium potting mix, and perhaps 2/3 premium potting mix, 1/3 perlite or some sharp clean sand if you've got that also, and that will help. Keep in mind that they have a relatively small root system, and they like to be wet but not overly wet. And then, yes, once to fertilize them, I would just be using a liquid fertilizer. And now is fine, but pull back on your fertilizer by the end of autumn, because otherwise they won't flower for you. You'll get far less flowers. You'll just put them into a state of panic, so to speak. All right, so look, you've got a nice big plant there. It'll work well for you. All right. So now we're heading off to Tasmania, and we're going to talk with Jenny, and she's asking, please can you help me with my orange tree? Every leaf has a brown rusty spot on the underside. The tree has fruit, but the leaves don't look healthy. Is there some sort of natural spray? There is. Jenny, there's quite a few natural sprays that you can use. However, what I'm going to ask you is, could you send us a photo in, please? Because the brown spots can be anything from an over-fertilizing to perhaps sorry, I've gone completely blank. Can go from over-fertilizing right through to having a bacterial issue, which is quite different. So we would be giving you different information for that sort of thing. So if you could send me in a really high quality pic so I can zoom in on it and give you an answer that's relative to you. Otherwise, I could be spending your money and it's not actually what the problem is. So I'm sorry we can't really answer it any better than that, Jenny, but I think we're better to get down to the core of it rather than just give you an answer for the sake of it. Excuse me. So Isabella is in Mundaring, and Mundaring's this beautiful suburb up in the hills in Guildford. And she's saying, after last summer, my azaleas have taken a beating and are alive just barely. I'd love some advice on how I could restore them to their former glory. Yeah, absolutely. You're in Mundaring and you should be able to. There's a photo of them. Nice looking garden there, Isabel. So yeah, your azaleas look like they've got quite leggy. Now we know that azaleas like to be in an acid soil. So probably between, I think, 5 and 4 is about where they like to sit on the pH scale. So you can always pop down to your local garden centre. Guildford Garden Centre is not far from you, and they do a free soil testing service for you, so you'll be able to tell that your soil is an acid soil. Then what you need to do is consider that azaleas have a very shallow root system, so you really need to mulch those year round, right? And then I would also say that you can cut these back. If you cut your azalea back to the ground, which is possible, you most likely won't have flowers next year. So you might want to try doing it, take 1/3 off the size of the bush, prune that back, feed your plant up, let it grow some, and then perhaps before the hot summer comes in, you could then cut it back another 1/3. And effectively you've taken it back half, but you're more likely to get flowers with it. I tend to prune azaleas in a fashion that as they flower and as the flower starts to wilt, I'll cut that particular branch back slightly, and I'll use those flowers inside. Just get a saucer of water and lay the flower on it, and it'll last for quite some time. Or a little posy of them is good. But yeah, that way you're keeping your plant in shape all the time. So hopefully that will help. It looks like they're in a really good position. One, just remember that azaleas, camellias, gardenias, etc., they're from the rhododendron family, the azaleas, and they're growth feeders. So make sure that you feed them every 4 weeks, just with a slow release fertilizer on top of that, and that should be really good for you. So hopefully that's helped you. But do try and remember to work out your soil acidity, and let's make sure that that's correct. Okay. So now, we're going all the way up to the Sunshine Coast in Queensland, and Kirsty's asking, hello, I've got 2 liquid amber saplings. What is the best way to care for these beauties? They're my favourite tree. Yeah, they're one of my favourites also. I do not want them to grow too big, maybe only 2 or 3 metres. Well, good luck with that. That's never going to happen, I'm afraid. Not good news here for you, Kirsty. I might have a solution, however. But liquid ambers are a medium to fast growing tree. They're going to grow to between 15 and 25 metres. So keeping a tree like that down to 2 or 3 metres is a very difficult task. And I don't think you're going to get a tree that you'd particularly like. It most likely won't survive. However, what you could do, keep in mind also that liquid ambers have a very shallow root system also. However, it's very strong. So if they're heading up there and they're getting quite big, be aware that they may be hard to get rid of, to get all the roots out. I've known people with those that are around about 4 to 5 metres and have had to have an actual tree surgeon come in and take them out because of the extensive root system. I guess the solution that I perhaps could come up with these two, you might want to give them to a friend who has a massive yard or a nice big paddock that cows loll under the liquid amber, but certainly not for a smaller yard in the inner city. One of the things that Flemings have a tree out called golf ball, I think it's called. No, gumball. Sorry about that. So gumball is a grafted liquid amber, and it's a miniature one. So it grows almost like a topiary, and it's grafted onto the top of a 1.8 metre graft or stem. So the tree doesn't grow much more than 3 metres, and that may be the way that you get to have a liquid amber, enjoy that amazing leaf growth, and the bark. I love the corky bark on it. It's very, it's really pretty. So maybe that's an answer, but to be honest, I probably wouldn't try to do a 2 to 3 metre tree from a tree that wants to grow 15 to 25 metres. However, I understand why. All right, Jody from Victoria. What conditions do azaleas need to thrive in? Okay, well, we did talk about azaleas a minute ago, but I'll run over it again. So azaleas like to be in a relatively sheltered position. They won't take the hot wind. I tend to grow them more, even though some are bred for the sun. The sun in West Australia, probably not. And maybe north of Sydney, be more careful. And I would grow them more in the morning sun. They need to have an acidic soil. And you might find in certain parts of Australia your soil is not acidic, it's more limey. So you want to go down to your garden centre and get some acidic compost and make sure that you turn that into a nice acidic bed for them. Keep in mind they're shallow rooted, as I said before. So all year round I would be using mulch on them, and I guess also the mulch, I really like a thick mulch that allows the air and the water and nutrients to get through, but won't then work in a capillary action and draw the water back up into the mulch. Because if that happens, you're going to encourage the plants to grow their roots back up into the mulch also. So they go from being shallow rooted to almost no roots on them because they're just going to burn in the sunshine. Otherwise, and feed it with an Azalea Camellia fertilizer. It's certainly well worth doing it, and do it every 4 to 6 weeks. You'll find that they'll be a lot healthier if they do. Azaleas can get petal blight, and they can also get red spider mite. So have them in an area where they're sheltered from the wind, but they've got good airflow. And that way you can, and the more you feed them and keep them healthy and strong, the less, they're like human beings, the less they're then going to get sick or affected by pests and diseases. Yeah, nice little plant to grow, and prolific flowers through winter time and into spring when very little else is flowering. So I hope that's helped you, Jody. And Victoria, you shouldn't have too much trouble growing them if you've got the right environment for them. So we're back in Perth now, and Lynn from Claremont, she's asking, I have planted a small north-facing garden of Gardenias and Murrayas, and I'm wondering now, would it be a good time to put on some compost to help them get through our long hot summers, and what type of compost should I use, please? Look, Gardenias and Murrayas, both really beautiful plants, both with the white flowers, flower at different times of the year. Murrayas are a little bit hardier than a gardenia is seen to be. Again, a gardenia, like an azalea, has a shallow root system at least, and really requires mulch summer and winter. You know, we put mulch on our gardens in summertime to help from the expiration of moisture from the soil, but we do it in wintertime to keep the roots warm so that we can so that they continue to grow in the root system during the winter time, or can sit safely in the cooler soil without having too much damage. At the end of the season, you often see gardenias with very yellow leaves. More often than not, they're the older leaves that go yellow, and that's from the stress of going through winter time. If you see yellow leaves on the top, then you know that you're not putting enough nutrients into the soil, and they probably need a really good spray of something like Trace, the Sabrina Hahn's Trace Elements, or any of the good trace elements that you spray on and use as a liquid feed would be good. Moreas can also look like that in the cold, so they too need a good mulch on them. If you're in Perth, I really love the Desatco mulch. I think it works very well. But any of the good mulches that are open, that allow the water through, hold the moisture in the ground rather than using it to draw back up into anything fibrous. So you want something that's got little amount of fibrous content in it. Otherwise they grow well. And the other thing, Lynn, is to make sure that gardenias are fed every 4 to 6 weeks. They are a gross feeder and they like less than what the Morea will need ultimately, but you can put a bit onto the Morea too. It certainly isn't going to harm them, at least. Okay, so Melvina has come in, and we're not sure where Melvina is, so I'll try and answer this question as openly as I can. Trying my hand at gardening, should I be feeding my gardens with specific nutrients now given it's spring? Is there a general product all plants can take up? There are general products, Melvina. I find that I've shifted all of mine to mineral fertilizer now. I really prefer that. There's one in Perth, and I'm sorry I can't speak for the eastern states at this stage, but I'm sure there's one. If you get down to your garden centre, they'll be able to help you with that too. But the mineral fertilizer that we have here in Perth is a Grow Safe, it's called, and it has a lot of the minor minerals that the plant needs. And in Perth, we don't have minerals in our soils like that. So for the macro minerals to operate well and work well for the plant, you need the minor minerals. So that's why it's really important to have a fertilizer that's got a good mineral content rather than the old-fashioned NPK that we used to use. The one I'm talking about also has microbes in it, and I think that's very important in the soil because it's the microbes that actually take the fertilizer to the plant. And that way, if you feed the plant well with the microbes, then you're actually feeding the soil, not the plant. But the microbes feed the plant, so it all works in a much more natural way. So if you can, get down to your garden centre, people, and ask for a mineral fertiliser, and then a slow release fertiliser is good also. Look, you're quite right that this is where you should start fertilising now. I can now see that the producers put up that you are from Sydney. So I would think that your weather is relatively similar. I think you're getting a little bit more rain than we are, which might be hard to understand if you've just gone through the last week and a half with us in Perth. But as soon as that cold mornings, as soon as you start feeling the sun in the mornings, that's when you want to start fertilising. Good luck with that, and get back to us if you've got any other questions. You know, gardening is not rocket science, and you know, your garden centres and we can certainly help you with all your questions. So get in as many as you need to. Hello, Tyson. So Tyson, as we probably all know, is from Boronia, Victoria. And Tyson's asking, can I plant an Albany bottlebrush wildflower seeds? Can I plant them into the ground? Can you please give me some tips and advice? Okay. Tyson, Albany bottlebrush, the Albany woolly bush, are you talking about? Or are you talking about a bottlebrush that I'm not aware of? Yes, you can plant them now. I would be putting them, probably scarifying them, so putting them into some water. You can, if it's a big enough seed, you can put some sandpaper on it and just lightly scarify it and then put it into some water and let it start to sprout. I would make sure that the soil is warm. I don't know what it's like in Boronia at the moment, Tyson, but certainly keep the soil, don't put it in until the soil's warm. Perhaps pot it out and then plant it a little bit later on. Using a native potting mix would be a really good idea. And if you're putting it straight from seed, even a seed raising mix to start with would be fine. So nice to hear from you again, Tyson. Okay, so now we're looking at the at spring cleaning. It's that time of the year. I know I've been out in my garden getting rid of all of those weeds that the rain has just produced over what seems like overnight. Well, Neville has also been looking at what we can do for our garden, and our lawns at this time of the year is when we start getting back and doing some good spring cleaning in them. So let's have a look at what Neville Passmore, when he visited the Still shop down in Canning Vale recently and found out what they had hand-on to make these everyday activities a lot easier. Let's take a look.
Fan of battery-powered garden tools. And I'm here at my local Still dealership to talk to Paul Beacon about battery-powered lawnmowers. Paul.
Neville, how are you, mate?
I'm back again.
Good to see you again.
So, Paul, I gather this is the first of the electric battery-powered mowers.
Certainly is, Neville. So this one's the Still RMA 460V. This is an 18-inch battery mower. It takes the AK series battery. So as you can see, the AK series battery is a little bit smaller than the AP series, more designed for your homeowner, your semi-commercial environment, but still an exceptionally good battery.
Okay. Now, when I looked at that, I thought that there was 2 batteries needed, but that's actually not for a battery. Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
it's
so
for storage.
Yeah, you're right there, Neville. The Still battery mowers will mow up to 3,000 square metres, depending on the model.
Yep.
However, with the smaller ones, this will go up to about 260 square metres. You do have that second battery option. So if the first battery is depleted, then you can just simply plonk the second battery in and continue mowing.
Well, the average size of a lawn these days is a lot less than 260
Certainly
square
is. So,
metres, isn't it? Yeah.
and again, obviously with your blowers, your whippersnippers and that type of thing, that battery can go from your mower to your whippersnipper to your blower. Gives you that peace of mind,
Yep.
and away you go, that
That's the way it
convenience of getting to go without the fuel.
Yep. So start her up and show
Yeah,
me
so it's
how
quite
it works.
simple, mate. So all there is you got the orange safety button on this side.
Yep.
You push that in, pull this lever in. Let go of the lever, you can hear the engine slowing down, stopping the blade, so an excellent safety feature.
Yep.
Like I mentioned before, this one is self-propelled. So pull the lever in,
Right.
and away you go.
I'm with you.
So that will set at medium pace, Neville. So,
Yep.
so you can adjust the speed depending on your cut rate and that type of thing. So nice and easy, it's just variable, works extremely well.
Now, I've got a big mulching mower at home, which
Yes.
does a fabulous job. Can you use this for mulching?
You
as well?
certainly can. So it does, well, it is a 3-in-1 mower. So you do have the option of splitting the grass out the side.
Yep.
For that longer grass. You can put your mulching kit in, so that they'll obviously mulch your lawn like you're currently doing.
Yep.
Or you can just simply use it as a catcher mower, hence the 3-in-1 mower.
Collectible. Yep.
That's it, mate.
Beautiful. I reckon this is the future of mowing. I just love the idea of having a battery-powered machine that doesn't spew all those fumes into your nose as you're doing the job. As you can see, there's quite a range of different machines here to choose from, some more sophisticated than others, and lots of really interesting and useful features. So pop into your local Still dealership and check it out.
Well, that was great. I hope you got some hints there and tips on how you can look after your lawn at this time of the year. I know that my lawn's just been going crazy with all the wet weather, so I dare say you guys have got the same problem. Now let's get on with the plant of the week. I love this segment. Of course, plants are one of our favourite things, and I've brought an interesting plant along with you for you to see. Let's see if I can show you the label also. And it's a bit hard. I'm going to push this closer to the camera just so that you can see the leaves. This is what we call a Cyanothis. Cyanothis blue Pacific. Its common name is often known as Californian Lilac. This is where it originated from, was California, and it grows very easily from San Francisco all the way down to the very southern tips of California. So a perfect plant for the coastal areas, perfect for probably Brisbane all the way down, if not a bit higher, and of course the same in WA. has these gorgeous emerald green leaves that are quite tough. And I think one of the things that is really special about this plant is the colour of the flower. I'm not sure whether that's coming through as sort of purple to you on the screen, but it's a very deep lilac-y blue. It's one of the few things that are lilac-y blue. It will grow to about 3 metres tall and about 2 metres wide. But what I love about this also is there's not many blue flowering trees around. And when you've got a shrub that's about 3 metres tall, you can actually take that up and produce a small tree, which is quite fun. I tend to try and take it and allow it to go up with a trunk, and then I'll choose 3 branches to make that then into a stable, almost triangular looking form, so that if it is in some wind, and that is one of the things that Cyanothis don't like, is strong wind. They don't have particularly strong root system. They'll take the drought, they'll take less water, as I've just said, they take a lot. But if they were in a place like, and I'm going to use Geraldton as an example, in West Australia, a very windy spot, you'll find that they won't survive. The roots don't take it. So you need to put it in a relatively sheltered position. But it's a great little plant, and you should be able to buy this all over Australia. So it's called Cyanothis Blue Pacific. And if you don't want something that's 3 metres, but you like the idea of having the blue flowers, there's a little ground cover one, and it only grows to about 50 centimetres, but by about 2 metres wide. That's kind of fun too, to have some blue flowers. So, Cyanothis, have a look at it. Go down to your garden centre and see if you can't find one there. All right. So, talking about beautiful flowers, we're now going to cross over and we're going to have a chat with David from Garden Express, and we're going to be talking about this wonderful savings they've got on all their Princess Lilies. So, is David around? Hi, David. No, David's not there. Hi, David. Hi, David. I'm sorry, David, we can't hear you.
I'm on. We're caught up
Now
in
we can.
Joanne, how are you going?
I'm very well.
That's great to hear. It's good to
You've
see
got a
you
great
again.
bargain here with the Princess Lilies.
Yes, we've got the Princess Lilies. Actually, we're just discussing an exclusive bulb offer that I've got possibly coming up a little bit later. We're just discussing how we can sort of put that together. But it's a few weeks away, so we won't get into that today. But we'll talk Princess Lilies.
Yes, yes. I love them. I think a lot of people, when you talk about Princess Lilies or Alströmerias, they think of the old-fashioned ones that grew to around about, anywhere from 50 to 80 centimetres tall. These are all really nice little compact ones, aren't they?
Yeah, for sure. And actually, the garden variety tall ones, as you say, they still do them for cut flower. They're very, very popular.
Yeah.
But they're all under breeders' rights at the moment. So we're trying to get some of those taller ones back into production because the home garden ones are gone. But the Princess Lilies are exactly that. Beautiful little compact plants, heaps and heaps of flowers on them, beautiful for pots or in the garden. They're just one of my favourites.
Yeah, I love them. And I love the fact that you can go out and when you tidy them up as the flowers die down, you don't need your secateurs. You just put your hand down into the depth of where the flower is and pull them. And that way you're also making sure that they don't get too compact and too crowded for the rhizomes.
Yeah, exactly. So, the way that they're kind of a stringy set of rhizomes under the ground, so they're easily dividable after a year or two. And each rhizome will then, grow a little bit more. So you could probably get 2 or 3 plants after a year and expand it across your garden and have a really beautiful garden bed off it.
Yeah, it's a great one to share with friends also. They've got the red, you've got the white.
Oh, we all do that.
Around.
Absolutely,
and I like the fact that you've put different colours within your packet deals also. I see you've got 2 deals or 3 deals with 3 and one with 4 in it.
I think that's got 6 in it. That's our mega collection. So that offers a little bit better value
6.
again over the other 3 collections. But depending on the space and the colour breaks that you like, we do try to mix it up a little bit. And as I said, with the breeding of ultramarias, particularly for the cut flowers around the world, there are some exquisite colours coming through. So I love the little bicolours personally, where you've got sort of the red on yellow or that purple with the dark centre. It's just beautiful.
They're really cheerful plants, aren't they?
Yeah,
I love having them in pots, and they do grow well in pots. I've even grown one in a hanging basket and placed it in a position. I love them because, you've got the girlfriends coming around for a cup of tea. You just move your pots into the right area. They look fantastic.
It is like a fresh bowl of flowers, isn't it, when you do it like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I like the way, so these, if you send them, anyone who hasn't bought from Garden Express before wouldn't necessarily know how easy it is to order from you online, but then how quickly and how easy they get them in your special made boxes too.
Yeah, I've got one of those shippers here for you to have a look at.
Perfect.
Yep. So we've got the plastic blister. So we protect the plant through the transport system, and the beautiful little flowers will start to pop up over the top of that over the next week or so. So they're beautiful, primed, and they multiply, as I said, really quickly. So if you did put them in a bigger bowl, maybe even a 20-centimetre bowl, within a couple of months, little new shoots will be popping up all around, and you'll fill that beautiful bowl to put in the middle of your table when you do have the coffee or the wine.
Or the wine, I like that one. Look, that's fantastic. And the price is reduced by 25%, which is, who gives 25% away other than Garden Express? Thank you very much.
No problems. Well, that's collections. We put a few of them together, and it builds a good value buy opportunity. And that way customers get to experience a couple of the beautiful colours. And yeah, we love to be able to deliver those value discounts in our collections.
Thanks, David, and thanks from the community for the deal. I think it's fabulous, and I think you'll find that you will sell out of these.
Yeah, I think we had a similar deal last year, and they were gone. I think in about 10 days, all of our collections were gone. So it's a great little product. Not too many people grow these anymore that we can see. So it's a really nice one to be able to present.
Absolutely, and what a great Christmas present! If you bought them now, put them into a nice pot, gift wrap them and give them to your friends. That would be fabulous.
I had not thought of that because they flower for months and months and months, all the way probably till the end of April. So
They
the
do.
only thing that will affect the flowering of a princess lily is, a really cold, frosty period.
Yeah.
Even the
Yeah.
flower growers, they just probably have 1 month where they maybe trim their plants back to rejuvenate the rhizome into producing
I've
good
seen
energy.
them growing in Canada, and of course, in really cold areas, and they almost mow them back and then cover them ready for the spring. So it's possible. And if you grow them in pots, if you're, say, in the mountains or something, grow them in pots, and then you can bring them into a sheltered area and cover them from the frost, and they'll last for you really well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic, David. Thanks so
Terrific.
much, and I appreciate you coming on, and it's great to see you today.
Wonderful, Joanne. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye, David. Look, guys, you really need to have a look at that. The Princess Lilies are beautiful, and the different colours that the guys at Garden Express have put together are really pretty. They're normally $12.80 each, and you're getting those for 3 varieties for $28.80, and that's delivered to your house. So that's a pretty good deal. Okay. Liz from Victoria has asked a question though. Are all lilies poisonous for cats? Yes, they are, and they're also poisonous for dogs. They're also poisonous for young children. So I think that and a lot of people ask me in the garden centre, are these poisonous? And the majority of the time I have to say yes. Daffodils are poisonous, petunias are poisonous, jasmine is poisonous. Most things have something with them that are poisonous. So what I guess I would like to say to you is just make sure that if you have a cat or a dog, if it's a particularly inquisitive one, keep a good eye on them for everything in your garden. If it's a child, train that child, teach it not to eat that. Have an area where the child can pick flowers, can eat flowers. I've got a grandson that eats every flower he sees. So we're talking to him about not eating anything that he doesn't understand, obviously coming to his nana to make sure it's right, or his mother who's a good horticulturalist also. But just make sure that you train your children to understand that they don't just pick. It's like anything. You train them not to just eat anything that's given to them necessarily from someone they don't know. Same thing. So yes, they are. Most cats and dogs I find don't go and eat foliage. If you find they are, then you need to deal with that. But otherwise, most don't. And so it should be all right. And if we only grew things that weren't poisonous in our gardens, we'd have very bare gardens, unfortunately. So I hope that's helped you. Okay, so we're off to Melbourne. And Renee has asked, one of my conifers looks like it's dying from the base up. Any suggestions on how I can save it? It's been given sea salt over the foliage and to the soil, but it's getting worse. So I think we have a photo. Yes, we do. So this could easily be a canker. I can't say for sure because, again, the photo that I've got close up, I was unable to zoom in on. So I couldn't see. You can often if it has a canker, you can actually see those marks on the stem of the bush, but I can't. Now the others look quite healthy. You are in Victoria, is that correct? Yes. So you're in Melbourne where they should be able to grow. So if you have a canker, I would suggest that, look, years ago we used to use a product and you could buy it on the garden centre shelf also. However, they realised that it didn't really work. So at the moment, my understanding, and they may have found it and I may not have caught up with this, but they are still trying to find a solution to the conifer canker. So I would suggest to you that you could try maybe a copper, a liquid copper that may help you. But I would say that if your conifer is more than a quarter affected by this, you most likely are best to take it out. It is something that will grow through the rest of your conifer bushes too, and it looks to me like you've got a hedge or a row of them anyway. So be careful that it doesn't then go on to the others. So it may be a good idea to sacrifice that one, start again with a new one and see how it goes from there. There's not a lot more I can say. Sea salt, go half strength only on your sea salt when you're using it to that extent. Otherwise, feed your plants up well. Conifers like a deep watering system. You know, I've seen them growing on mountains in Canada, you know, and mountains with snow at least. And so they like a deep watering, and that way they'll be healthier. Not sure that it's going to come back, I'm sorry. It's a bit of bad news for you there. So good luck with that. Okay, so we're still in Victoria and we're down on the Mornington Peninsula, and Liz has asked, which slow release fertilizers do you suggest for Camellia and Azaleas, please? And I have a lemon tree that has leaves that are curling. Okay, well look, let's do that. There's two parts to that. Excuse me, I'm a horticulturist with a runny nose from, anyway, sorry about that. So we have slow release fertilizer. I would look at something like Troforte. I'm sure that you'll have I was looking up on the shelf to get the name back into my head. So Troforte is a very good one to use as a slow release. In fact, it's actually a controlled release, which is even better. Otherwise, I would also at times give them a liquid fertilizer, and always make sure that it's for Azaleas, Camellias. They like an acid soil, and by giving them the correct fertilizer for Azaleas and Camellias, you're maintaining the soil balance where it needs to be, and the plant will take up those nutrients much easier. So have a look for Troforte. It's a very good one. It's a mineral fertilizer with microbes in it, and it is a controlled release, so it's worth having. Okay, now the second half of your question was, I have a lemon tree that leaves are curling, and can you please recommend what I can spray on my tree? Curling leaves on a lemon tree can be a couple of different things. So I'm not sure. It depends. If they're curling this way and under, it's most likely you're missing some boron or maybe some minor elements. So trace elements would be really good. If they're curling upwards, it can, and inwards, it can be a pest, and it can be leaf miner. And you'll see that if you pull the side back that's curling over and look at it, and if there's a little insect that's mined, and you'll see like a track through the leaf, then you've got an insect which you need to deal with. And you can do that with pest oil. There's no need to use any sort of chemical, just use a pest oil on that and it'll get rid of it. So it really depends on how it is. Sometimes when they're curling under, it can be an overfeeding, it can be an underfeeding. So it's a little bit hard. Again, if you want to send in a photo for us, a high resolution photo, that would be fantastic. And maybe we could help you further with that. Or take a couple of leaves off the plant and drop down to your local garden centre. The horticulturist there will be able to tell you exactly what's happening to the way it's curling. Okay, so thanks, Liz. So Jody, at least, not Judy, Jody. Jody's from rural New South Wales, and we've got a picture attached. How to get lawn to grow on these bare patches. One is under a large tree close to the house, and the other area is next to the house. It doesn't get much water on it, and both are very hard soil areas. Okay, you can grow grass under a tree, but you have to keep in mind that grass is going to compete with the root system, and the root system is most likely going to survive or out-survive the grass. So what I suggest, there's 2 or 3 things that you need to look at if you really are determined to grow grass under a tree. Is, if it's possible, you can lift the canopy. So take maybe a couple of branches off the lower area of the tree, which allows the light back in, and that'll give it a much better. You might want to aerate the soil, because yes, it will be hard under there, and the tree will be taking the majority of the nutrients. So what soil is loose and under there will not be of good quality. So you'll need to put in some compost or some sort of lawn filler. Don't use a yellow sand or something with no nutrients in it. It needs to have something to help that seed take off. And if you were to use grass, I would say use a tall fescue grass. All right, it's the one that will mostly grow in under the tree and shade for you. Okay, if that doesn't work and you're finding it hard to make that work for you, consider something like thyme or dichondra or any of those lawn substitutes. But you'll still need to do the same thing, aerate the soil and then put something on it before you plant into it. And you might need to maintain that by sprinkling a bit of compost over that and around that as it's growing. The other area, I wonder if it's also an area where people walk. And if it is, then you're going to find it really hard. You'll probably need to corner it off so that no one can walk through that area. It's possibly under an eave, because you do mention that it gets very little water. Either way, if it gets very little water, you're going to need to make sure it does get good water. That's one thing grass needs to survive, is a decent amount of water. Now, we know grass is valuable to have in our garden because it reduces the heat around our houses. But there's also a payoff. You know, if you put it into somewhere where it's not surviving well and you have to use a lot of water, you might want to consider the cost of that on your household bills as well as on the community by using up too much water. Again, around that corner side, I was just looking at the photo, you could put that, you could put a lawn substitute in there. Thyme, oregano even will grow in those sort of areas, and the flat thymes I'm talking about, not the edible thyme. Something like that will certainly help you. But again, treat the soil, consider it as almost dead soil, and then go from there. Good luck. I hope you get that happening. So we're back in Melbourne, and the birds have eaten my avocado leaves. What can I do? The birds have eaten your avocado leaves. Nicole is from Melbourne, and she's got this question, and I've never seen birds eating avocado leaves. So what can you do? I guess you could try and get rid of the birds, and That might be that you attract them to another part of your garden, or you could also use things like, I've seen strung up with fishing line CDs, old CDs. Don't grab your children's new ones. They might not like it. But grab an old CD, thread it through, and it moves and wiggles, and of course makes it difficult for the birds to settle or come in. If they're birds, certain birds like crows are so smart that, you know, you'd have to do that and then the following month do something else. And I've often seen in wonderful old Italian gardens where they've put plastic bags through the trees, tied them on, and it rustles and scares them off. So you might want to alternate, and that way you might be able to keep the birds away. I don't know of anything that you can spray on that would keep birds off, that would be safe for the birds also. And not knowing the bird, I'm not quite sure how to answer that question well for you, but I hope that's been of some help. So we're heading back up to the Sunshine Coast, and Nicole has asked, would hydrangea Sunday phrase be suitable in full sun? No, I haven't even finished the question. But no, it would not be suitable in full sun on the Sunshine Coast. It does say that it grows in full sun. And when is the best time to prune back your hydrangeas? So, well, that's again 2 questions there. I wouldn't be planting it. I would put it in morning sun only. I think you'll find that if you put it in full sun, it's just going to dry out and it's not going to work. You will use way too much water than what I believe we should be using in our gardens these days. They grow fabulously in pots too. It's another one of those things that I grow in a pot, and come Christmas time I bring them out. I will put them right near the house where everybody's gathering, and everyone thinks I'm very clever, but in fact it's just the way it works. So maybe try a pot, and that way you can put it in different areas. Best time to prune them is I tip prune them through the flowering period, and I hang the flowers upside down so that, and they go this beautiful green colour, and then I use those in my floral arrangements inside the house. Also, then by the time winter comes around and they've gone deciduous, you'll notice the leaves go black, little black spots on them, and they start dropping. That's the nutrients being drawn back down into the root system. And that's when they naturally drop their leaves. So once they've dropped their leaves, then you can look at the really old shoots that are looking very woody and maybe too big, and you can shape them by cutting those off. So just before winter, once they've dropped their leaves, or around about winter, it depends on where you're living in Australia. And in the Sunshine Coast, you might find it's a little bit later. And you might find also that they don't drop the leaves as easily on the Sunshine Coast, so you'll just have to consider, okay, they're bare enough now, let's start doing some pruning, and they'll come away beautifully the following year. Do love a good hydrangea. Good luck with that, Nicole. Okay, so Fiona, we're not sure where Fiona's from, but she says, hi, can I please have some advice on my Silver Princess? I'm thinking it's got black spot, it's only 5 months old. Oh, that's a shame. Mangazeb Plus. I would have consider using some Mangazeb Plus. You can get that in any garden centre. It's a common product and it's a really good fungicide. I would also consider where it's planted. If you've put it in an area where it's too sheltered, where there's not enough wind flow, you might find then that you have a problem with black spot also. So keep an eye on that, Fiona. Wow, these questions are coming through hard and fast today. It's fantastic. Thanks for all your questions. We really appreciate them. Don't forget to hit that like button and share this program with all your friends also. Okay, so we're heading down south now, and we're in Victoria. And Jane has asked, I have a problem with shield bugs or stink bugs. They are destroying so many of my plants and I'm losing the battle. How can I eradicate them? I do have pet dogs and I also have a beehive. So given that you've got a beehive, that's a really hard thing to deal with. You don't want to be spraying anything. Now look, these like to hide in places like old boards, under logs, etc. So if you can look under all of the maybe bits lying around your garden or around behind the shed, you might find that's where they're actually breeding. So if we try and get rid of their habitat, then they're more likely to be removed. And I'm not sure what it is that you could spray on them to actually get rid of them, but you could use the clay, the mineral clay solution, as a method for stink bug control. I've actually never had them so bad in my garden. It's a shame. They must be laying eggs also around and feeding on plants. So if you can look out for the eggs perhaps and get rid of them that way. It's safe. The kaolin clay at least, is safe. So it's a very safe for plants, including your edible ones, and it washes off. So perhaps if you Google kaolin clay or stink bugs natural, and that way you'll get a much better answer than I'm giving you. I'm kind of going all over the place here with that one, sorry. So we're off to the Balcombe Hills in New South Wales, and I want to say Mathatii, and I've got that wrong. I'm very sorry, I've pronounced your name really wrong here. However, I can read the question. I have planted potatoes, it is growing well, but I don't know when to dig out the potatoes, and please advise. Okay, well, it's actually quite simple. What you do is you wait for the potatoes, they'll flower, and once they flower, and then you'll see all the leaves will drop off them and they'll just look like they're dying, going brown. That's when you start doing it, okay? And that's when you find that and what I try to do is move the soil so I can get my hand in under, and if I find that I've got really nice sized potatoes, then I start digging into that. If I find them still small, I leave them for a little bit longer to try and just to get a bit bigger. So once the foliage starts dying down, that's your time to do it. And I think it's between 12 and 16 weeks that they take to come to fruition. Right, so Svetlana, and we're not sure where Svetlana is, but she's asked us the question, would coffee and eggshell powder be effective for little cone snails as an organic control? Possibly, but more than likely not. The little cone snails are a European snail, and they came in the 80s a lot. I mean, there was probably some around Australia before then, but I know in Perth they came in the 80s and there was huge amounts of them. I ended up having them on a rose that I couldn't believe was being eaten by snails. So I went out one evening and sure enough, and it was just completely full of these little cone snails. What I had around my garden at the time was bricks laid on an angle all along. And as I opened the brick up, that's where they were. They were underneath things, so again, they'll breed and live underneath things. Unlike other snails, our normal garden snail, that lives in plants like Agapanthus, so they live in a grassy thing, and I would open those up and throw some pellets into there or dig them all out. These are all tiny, and they're in the areas that you would not think that they're going to be in, okay? Snail pellets don't really work on them either, so there's no point wasting your money on snail pellets. What I've been told by the permaculturist is that they use copper oxychloride. Now, copper oxychloride is the active constituent in peach leaf curl remedy. Okay, so there's quite a few out on the shelf. Go down to the garden centre and ask for copper oxychloride, and then do a spray of copper oxychloride over the areas where you think they might be, as well as over the plants that are being affected. The copper, of course, does affect the microbes in your soil, so you might then want to replenish the microbes by getting some spreadable microbes back in. So, Ben, okay, we're back in Perth, and why are my palm trees not growing in height and have a yellow tinge? Well, palm trees are not really a tree that grows well in Perth. We make them grow in Perth. I would say that it would be interesting to know what sort of soil you're in, Ben. If you're out our way in the Guildford way or by the hills in really heavy soil, you probably find that it's not going to grow particularly well for you. If you're by the coast or in a sandy position, which most of Perth is, then you would, and it's got a yellow tinge, I would suggest that it's lacking fertilizer. So the plant will need some fertilizer. You can get a palm tree fertilizer, and you may need to go as far as doing that if it's now got to the point where it's tinged in yellow. You might find it's a little bit underfed, but that it is also not just underfed, but it could be lacking just all the nutrients that it needs, and therefore it's going yellow. And the winter, the cold will make it go yellow. Try getting a fertilizer into it, making sure that the soil is well drained for it, and go from there. Wow, that was a lot of questions, and I'm really glad that everybody got so many in. Again, don't forget to hit that like button. We love to share this around. We now have a special sneak peek at the next Garden Gurus, episode number 4, which will be on tomorrow afternoon. Let's have a look at it.
We've had a few food security scares in recent times, and it says to me that it's always a good idea to have some herbs and veggies on the go at home.
Now, this tree is fantastic. It produces north of 250 fruit each season. They are absolutely fantastic.
And now spring is here. It's time to give your lawn a makeover.
Just have a look at these bananas. They are literally going bananas, and in about a month's time, when they're ripe, they'll be the best bananas in the whole of Western Australia.
So I've got some blood oranges from Trev's garden and make a kingfish and blood orange ceviche.
Well, it's been quite a day. I've really enjoyed this program. Thanks so much. I'm sorry if we didn't get to your questions today. Get them in for next week, and we'll address them then. Again, try and hit the like button. We love to share it. We're very sorry if we didn't get to your question. Get back to us. Jessica, our wonderful producer, will be sending out a message to our seed winners after today's show. I'm back in next Friday at 9 a.m. Western Standard Time, sorry. Remember, you can always jump onto our website, catch up on the previous stories from the Garden Gurus at thegardengurus.tv, or your YouTube channel, thegardengurus.tv. You can listen back on today's show on the live stream, and catch up on previous episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Audible. Also, please make sure you tune into the first episode of The Garden Gurus. It's airing on Channel 9 this Saturday, that's tomorrow. Check your local garden, your local guides for the times. Happy gardening, everyone. Have a great week, and I'll see you next week. Thank you.
Express are Australia's leading mail-order gardening service, offering a wide range of quality garden products. Each week on the Garden Gurus Live, the team at Garden Express will share a weekly offer. So make sure after today's show you jump online and visit their website.